Hi, hello, and welcome to the Denver Astrology Podcast. We are here this month on Saturday, January 17th at 10:43 a.m. to talk to you guys about the progression or the precession of the equinoxes in tropical versus Vedic or sidereal astrology, as well as a little bit of the lunar mansions in preparation for Zane's talk tomorrow on the dasha system in Jyotiṣa astrology.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have a great lecture. It's about the dasha system, but we're also just going to have a few slides and a conversation about just like Vedic astrology or Jyotiṣa astrology, just like a little 101 moment. So lots to learn tomorrow.
Well, that's why we wanted to like deep dive into the beginning part of this lecture, kind of like prior to us giving the lecture. Well, you mostly.
Well, yeah.
Just so that we could have more time to expand upon these topics and really dive deep into it. So without further ado, I guess we'll just jump right into it. A couple disclaimers before we get rolling.
Well, first of all, in the lecture tomorrow and probably this podcast, there are a lot of Sanskrit words, and we don't speak that language, so excuse us if we butcher the words.
I'm so sorry. I'm
We're
so
trying
bad at
our
pronouncing
best.
everything all the
Yes.
time, always. I thought it was or Hermione was Harriman for like the longest time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, because I read the books, all right? And you
And
didn't
then-
have the movies.
We're going to talk a little bit about this here soon as well, but I just want to at the beginning say there is no like right or wrong talking about tropical versus like Vedic or sidereal charts. I see my sidereal chart as like another lens or tool to like my horoscope in general, just like astrology. You don't need to substitute one for the other completely.
And we'll dive deep into that really, but it's really just a psychological divergence, not an error in either half of the system or either way of believing. So that being said, when people hear that like Western and Jyotish astrology use different zodiacs, it is so often reduced to the one is wrong kind of mindset. Can you explain what the precession of the equinoxes actually is astronomically and why it forced astrology to make this philosophical divide?
I can try my best. I'm an astrologer, not an astronomer. So when preparing for this conversation, the best that I could come up with was like, just due to the Earth's like rotation around the sun and then like with its wobble, there is a shift in the spring and fall equinoxes every 72 years. Every 72 years, it does move forward in the calendar one day. And this creates a divide between the two systems because sidereal astrology uses the true location of the planets, whereas tropical is just based off of one day starting the rest of the zodiac. The spring equinox starts the 0 degrees of Aries for tropical astrology, and then that sets up the location for all the other signs as well.
The way I described it is like a Beyblade spinning, and it's slowly. So we have our ecliptic, where all the planets, go around the sun. And then we have our celestial equator that is kind of like tilted, and it just tilts a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more slowly as the years go by. And where the sun crosses that celestial equator is what causes the equinoxes. So back in the day, they were one and the same. The equinoxes, like the Jyotish and the Western tropical calendars were one and the same. The Aries fixed star was aligned to the equinox.
Yeah, I think, and that concept I think is really cool to think about, like when exactly the two were the same. Because like I said, it shifts 1 degree every 72 years. There's currently a 24-degree difference between the two.
Depending on which fixed star of Aries
Right.
you choose as your starting point.
So if we do 72 times 24, this has been a conversation going on for 1,728 years. So that just shows you how long astrology really has been relevant in humanity. And obviously astrology dates back to even before that. But this is something that has been like around for centuries. And now we do have this discourse of such a big difference between the two because of how long astrology has been around.
Well, they didn't even notice that the two were different until like 200-300 years into it, So yeah, that's kind of what sets up the basis of like why it happened. And then the reason why the psychological or philosophical divide happened was mainly just in a conversation between like symbolic, solar-centric, archetypal, who are you astrology, and like karmic, literal, lunar-centric astrology. And because Eastern cultures use a lunar calendar and Western cultures use a solar calendar, they just naturally philosophically divided to those different areas of importance. So one has more symbology and solar impact, and then one has more karmic energy and more lunar impact.
Yeah, in the West, it is very like the Western culture is very like material, physical reality. It's always like showing what we have, what we can do in like the physical sense. And the Eastern philosophy and thought has always been much more spiritual and karmic and more other realm-ish stuff. And so with tropical astrology, it is much more like personality based and like who are you and like what's your life in this manifestation. Whereas like Sidereal, I've noticed, is much deeper.
It just
and, like,
tells you your personality.
Yeah,
you don't get a choice.
It's much deeper. It's much more, like you said, karmic and spiritual. And I think like after doing a lot of studies within this area, I've noticed that Sidereal is much like the inner workings of us emotionally and psychologically. There
It's
we go.
okay. Words are hard.
Yeah, and then tropical astrology is like the outward manifestation and our actions based on our inner emotions, if that makes sense. So,
well, what does it mean that the tropical zodiac is anchored to those equinoxes, while the sidereal zodiac is anchored to the fixed stars? And what really does that difference tell us about how each system and each society understands time, meaning, and human experience differently?
Well, one time we were having a conversation about this, and you reminded me that like the seasons are very important to like us and like our emotions and like how we feel throughout the year. Because like for example, once it gets cold, it's wintertime. Naturally, as humans, we do like want to hibernate. We are much more tired. We stay indoors, and so yeah, tropical astrology is based off of the seasons, and I think it does play a big part in our emotions and how we are just naturally feeling throughout the year.
Like it's solar centric, it's how we perceive the world around us versus lunar centric, how we feel and how we internalize and instinctualize the world around us. So it's just different perspectives.
Yeah.
Again.
Well, when we talk about like lunar versus solar, with like lunar ideas and symbolisms, it's something we can't always see. Yes, like it's something we feel, but sometimes we have a hard time understanding what we feel, or sometimes we have to figure this out without being able to see anything. Whereas Western thought is all based on like what is the logic and stuff that we can see. It's very empirical, scientific. And I think that helps differentiate the two systems as well.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And one thing that I just want to like side note about Jyotish astrology is that it is based off of the fixed stars, sorry, cat hair. But when you have a system that is based on the fixed stars, there's a bunch of stars in the constellation of Aries. Astrologers debate which one should be the start of Aries. So there's different, and I'm going to butcher this word so much, Ionashas.
It's the gap between the two systems.
They're the angular distance between the two systems, essentially. So the most common one is the Lahiri system, which is that 24 degrees in which we were talking about. But that picks a specific fixed star in Aries to like start the zodiac with. There's different stars in which different astrologers believe that those systems work. So in Jyotish astrology, there are various different systems of practicing, which is a distinct difference to Western astrology. I guess there's like modern philosophical versus like traditional Hellenistic, but it's just not like the same. Like these are literal different systems saying what starts Aries.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of lucky as tropical astrologers. The fact that we're given like this is your start date, this is your 0 degree, and like end of discussion.
Yeah. Whereas there's like a lot of debate in, I guess not, because Lahiri is most commonly used, but it just really depends on culture.
Yeah, there are a lot of different forms of the Ionapsha that you can use, but in the East, Lahiri is like the standardized one, even though there is discourse on, there are other starting points. But anyway, Lahiri, just stick with that one. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For like getting into it, it is, I think, the easiest one. Okay, so do you see the precision of the equinoxes as a technical astrological issue or as something more symbolic, almost mythic, in terms of how consciousness, seasons, and destiny solely fall out of alignment for millennia? Because remember, these systems were the same back in the day. They didn't even realize they were different until like 200-300 years later.
I mean, I guess both can exist, because on a technological level, there is this discourse of like, how do we even use astrology correctly when like talking about the different like frames of reference for the planets, whether that's tropical or West or Vedic. But symbolically, I do think it is very similar to how we like just live throughout humanity. Because as humanity goes on and like we live in this modern day era, it's like to be a human right now is so crazy, overwhelming and crazy. If you just think about like what the human body like in psyche needs, like I have to go worry about fucking rent and taxes. That how does that compute in just being a human? You know what I mean? And like having a body. Like really, I just need food, shelter, maybe some water, some sleep. But I have to go worry about a W-2 out there, and that just shows the separation between like our physical manifestation, our tropical outward expression, versus our inner, like what it means to actually just be a karmic human.
Mm-hmm. We used to live very closely to nature, to the land, to our cultural practices. And as a society, we've digressed very strongly from that. So not to say that the precision of the equinoxes is like calling that out, but I think it's really showing the divide in, like you were saying, our external world and things that we're worried about around us, and our internal world.
I don't know. I guess with the like precession of the equinoxes and like the seasons, I don't think it's something we're ever gonna, I don't know, on like a emotional feeling level we'll ever be able to notice, because I think our emotions and our feelings will just follow the equinoxes, and like as the seasons move, so will we. On that emotional level.
Well, we'll not really ever notice it in our lifetimes, because like the offset will change a degree for every human, because it's 72 years it takes. But on like a evolutionary track of human sociology, I feel like it's our divide between what needs to be happening and what is actually happening around us, kind of jazz. Like our true. It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like basic food, shelter, water, community.
Yeah, I just feel like as the gap or the Ionoptia grows, every 72 years, it'll be 25 degrees, then 26 degrees, until it's eventually a full zodiac sign apart. I think it's just more of like a lag, almost like a hesitation, for lack of better words, of like what's happening in our lives and then how long it takes for it to actually catch up to us emotionally.
I get that. Heck yeah. So many people are fluent in zodiac signs and the tropical astrology, especially people who watch our podcast, but not the Nakṣatras or the lunar mansions. Do you mind explaining, because that's like the basis for the dasha system and how we calculate this Time Lord technique. So what necessarily are the lunar mansions, and why would a lunar-based system be foundational in sidereal astrology instead of Western astrology?
So in Eastern Vedic Jyotiṣa astrology, the moon has a lot more emphasis compared to like tropical astrology, where it's like, oh, that's just your emotions.
Their literal calendar is different than ours.
Right.
Like we use a Gregorian calendar, they use a lunar calendar.
Because like in the West, we use like the sun as well as like the ascendant as like main focal points. But then in Eastern thought, the moon is much more of like our psyche and who we are, and like the mechanisms in our brain that just like keep us going throughout the day. And the lunar mansions, though, are more of like symbolic areas of the zodiac. Think of like decans or
bounds
as well. So just the zodiac is split up into 27 sections. It's because of the 9 celestial bodies that they've put importance on, which is
I can do all the math for you too. So the moon moves about 13 degrees and 20 minutes per day. And therefore the ecliptic is divided into 27 13 degree 20 minute segments. But 27 is also the sidereal month. So the lunar cycle in the sidereal calendar is 27.3 days. So you get the 27 days and then the lunar, it's all like the moon moves this way. And we take the way that the moon moves, and then we take the way that the moon moves, and then we divide it by itself. And then we find a lunar thing.
What you said earlier, though, is that the moon moves through a lunar mansion every day. It changes lunar mansions every day. And it's also, mirroring the 27-day calendar lunar month. And so, yeah, I like that though, because it's like each day is a new day. Each day has its own flavor, its own energy, its own lunar mansion, if you will. But this comes from the 7 traditional celestial bodies. That's your Sun, Moon, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. But then they also put a lot of importance on the nodes as well. So that's
Ketu and Ketu.
Rahu, the north node, Ketu, the south node. And so with those 9, they've given each of 9 of these planets 3 sections of the zodiac. 9 times 3 equals 27. And as well in the zodiac, we'll show a diagram. But all of the 3 lunar mansions that rule the same planet all trine each other. They all cover the same area of the zodiac. For example, the lunar mansions that rule Mars go from the 23rd degree 20 minute of the earth signs to the 6th degree 40 minute of the air signs. So it's all covered. All the lunar mansions cover a small specific area of the zodiac.
I just love when astrology works out like this, when it all just like fits into place so perfectly, because it shows intention. It shows divine math.
I love circles.
I love circles too.
Circles are great.
So yeah, that's a great explanation as to what a nakshatra is. That's the terminology that I use. But lunar mansion, these are interchangeable terms.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is the Sanskrit word. I'm just using English lunar mansion. It's too early in the morning for another language right now.
No, I gotcha.
But yeah, so this is really important. It's not necessarily important during like transits, but it's more of an emphasis on your natal chart. Look at your sidereal moon placement. You need to figure out the degree and minute and sign of your lunar placement, as that will tell you which lunar mansion your moon falls in. It will give you, each lunar mansion has its own energy, characteristics, identity. And so it really does give you more flavor and insight on who you are and what your energy, karmic self might be in this lifetime. Yeah,
each nakshatra obsessively has a planetary ruler, not a sign ruler, a planetary ruler. It has a presiding deity, a symbol, a Shakti or a power or capacity, a Gana or a temperament, a Varna or a hierarchical Hindu societal class, a Yoni or an instinctual nature or creative nature, a Prashadra, I'm so butchering that, or a life aim, and then a Pada division. So not only are there 27 lunar mansions, but each lunar mansion gets divided into 4. So there's 108.
That's crazy. Okay. That's just wild.
They like dividing stuff.
No, it's cool though. You know, once again, with those further divisions, it gives you a more unique...
They're like 3 degree 20 minute segments, so it's kind of similar to like the dodecamoria, which is like 2.5 degrees.
It just gives you more insight on like who you are specifically and how you fall into the zodiac.
Oh, it gets so fucking particular. Mm-hmm. You can get called the hell out with some Jyotish astrology. But yeah, each lunar mansion essentially has like a fixed star or a star group that is like ascribed to it. So there's like a type of karma or a behavioral script, a psychological compulsion that is mapped out by the karmic conditions of the lunar mansion. Mm-hmm. So it's more of like a time lord and not necessarily like a... You can't apply lunar mansions to any other planet. Like it's just the moon.
And the reason we're bringing this up so much is because tomorrow during my lecture, we are talking about the Dasa system, which is, just briefly, like a sequence of planets that we all travel through. It's the closest thing that we have to it in tropical astrology is zodiacal releasing.
Or planetary decades.
That's true. But anyway, in order to figure out where you start on the sequence is based off of the ruling planet of your lunar mansion. Mm-hmm. So if you were born your moon is in the lunar mansion that's ruled by Mars, you would start on the Mars planetary period of the dasha. You live through those years, you live through that planetary influence, and then you move to the next one, which in this case would be the North Node, then Jupiter, then Saturn, and so on. So we have a few celebrity chart examples for tomorrow. One of them that I'm using is Ram Dass. If you're not familiar with him, he was born in the early 1990s, or not 1990s, sorry, the early 1900s, and he was born here in the United States, but then just really became into like Eastern thought and philosophy. He was really drawn to it. He went over to India, met with the gurus, had like this amazing experience of learning different thought about spirituality. And he was one of the first people to bring those ideas and thoughts back to the United States. It was very revolutionary. He received a lot of criticism, but he became a pioneer of spiritualism in the West. Now, we will show his chart on the screen, but I mean, if you just look at it in tropical, he has a Cancer rising, which is conjunct Pluto. And then the other thing that immediately I'm drawn to is a triple conjunction between the Sun, Uranus, and the North Node in his 10th house of Aries. But if we transfer over to sidereal astrology, everything moves back 24 degrees. So he now has a Gemini rising, still conjunct Pluto, and he still has that triple conjunction, but it is in his 10th house Pisces instead of Aries now. When we take a look at his sidereal chart, to me this makes a lot of sense because with the Gemini rising, he is speaking to a lot of people, he is connecting to a lot of people. It's all about communication, connection, and ideas. That played out a lot in his life. He was just always going around, basically podcasting. He was speaking to audiences. He had live audiences, talking to people and helping them through his words. But what were the words about? It was about his spirituality and spirituality in general, which makes sense with this triple conjunction in Pisces. Now, like we said earlier, one isn't the right chart here. They're both extremely valuable and full of truth. So if we transfer everything we just said to tropical, if you think about him in general and what he did in his life, he is a trailblazer. He was very bold and brave to be one of the first people to come back and do this, and he received a lot of criticism. And this is all what I'm talking about now is all manifesting in this triple conjunction in Aries in his tropical chart.
Yeah, the way that I like to describe it to people in like the most simplistic terms is this is something that has been said for, I'm not the person who pioneered or coined this term by any means, but it's just different languages. It's tropical astrology is French. It comes off a little softer maybe. And then Vedic astrology is a little bit more like German. It's a little bit more harsh. You can say the same exact sentence in both of those languages. It's just going to be phrased differently depending on the culture, depending on for example, in German, they have like one word to describe when somebody is like mildly annoying and you do something petty because you're annoyed by how annoying they are. Mm-hmm. You know, there's like a word for that. They don't have a word for that in French. You will just, you'd just be like, that person's a bitch. You know, there's different ways of communicating things in different cultures and in different mindsets of philosophical understanding. So that's just all this is. It's just a different way of looking at something. They both speak the same truth. It's just in different ways of expression.
Yeah. And it really does give you just a different lens on what your life path and journey might be. Because, for example, in still using Ram Dass as an example here, in tropical astrology, the ruler of his first is his moon in Sagittarius in the 6th. So that gives you a insight on how he'll be traveling a lot. He'll be emotionally connecting to like philosophy, religion, and faith, and it will be a part of his daily routine because of the 6th house influence. But in Vedic, we're now looking at Gemini rising, which is ruled by Mercury in Aries in the 11th. Still makes a lot of sense because he just had all these audiences that he spoke directly to, and he didn't give a fuck what the question is. He didn't care what the social norm was. He told the truth, and even if it like sounded weird or socially taboo, he still talked about those subjects with a lot of ambition and bravery. So no matter which system we're looking at here, you can find a lot of truth and karmic understanding of who you are.
Yep. Again, it's just, do you want to focus on a solar centric interpretation or a lunar centric interpretation? It's really the difference between these systems. Mm-hmm. It's just how are we dividing space, time, and existence? That's like the huge main difference between like housing systems. You know, it's like how do you want to divide space and time? you want to do it left leaning? Do you want to do it right leaning? Do you want to do it upside down? Do you want to do it inside out? That's pretty much all you're doing. Anyway, do you have any other parting things that you want to talk about in regards to the differences between these astrological systems? Setting up anything for your Dasha presentation? Any parting words of encouragement for those getting into Jyotish astrology for the first time?
If you're getting into Jyotish for the first time, come see me tomorrow. Come see us tomorrow. We'll teach you everything about it. Don't you worry.
Don't you worry your sweet little heart.
Don't you worry. I would get more into the Dasha system, but I'm leaving that just for our lecture. Today we wanted to just keep this more as a deep dive into the equinoxes and really the difference in the gap between the two systems. If you are really interested in learning about the Dasha system, check us out tomorrow. And I'm sure within the next few weeks, I'll also make a video of just recapping some of these slides and what I talked about in the lecture.
Heck yeah. And then if you have any questions, comments, concerns, death threats about anything that we've talked about before, or anything that you have just questions about in astrology, feel free to reach us individually. I am at Rosalie on all social media, as well as my website is just astrorosalie.com.
Yeah. All my social medias are just at Neville Astrology. But we also have a group account at Denver Astro Meetup where you can also feel free to send in any comments, questions, concerns about anything astrology and or our lectures.
Mm-hmm. But email us at mercastropod@gmail.com because we still have that Gmail and I don't really want to make another one for the name change. So sorry.
Oh, well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we'll have some more supplementary content soon, as well as another just lecture recap next month as well.
Heck yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.